me, hearties! We've arrived at the port! Aim the cannons! 3, 2, fire! Hello there, me hearties! Me be Tekking101, and welcome to a very special piratey video. Even more so than usual, depending how, in fact, I normally talk about a story involving pirates, but this is even more piratey, because today, December 5th be Talk Like a Pirate Day. This, a day above all days, is the day that we take to commemorate the pirates who— Stop right there, you rum-guzzling fool! What be this nonsense? Ye! Huh. Everybody knows that Talk Like a Pirate Day is on September 19th. Today, December 5th, is a day dedicated to the ninja! What? I know not what you speak of, boy with a leaf on his hat. I be a pirate! If you want to continue your discussion, you must face me in a ninja duel, doing ninja— Yeah, alright, so I might have mixed up the days a little bit. Ninjas and pirates, you know, they always confuse me, but whatever. We already have the freaking outfit, and we already know that pirates are superior to ninjas, so let's just go along with it. Now, in today's video, we're going to be talking about the quintessential pirate, Pirate Gol D Roger, who single-handedly sent the One Piece world into the great age of piracy, starting upon the story that would unfold with Luffy and his merry men. Now, here's the deal, though. Roger is actually based on a few real-life pirates. So we're not going to be talking about Roger's actual character, rather we're going to be talking about the inspirations that Oda most likely took from real-life pirates back in the golden ages of piracy, adapting a little bit into Roger's character, which I think is rather interesting, considering the fact that Roger, out of all of the pirates in One Piece, is very clearly, like, the most piratey. You know, like, you have Luffy and Nami, like, we all know that in One Piece, pirates are either just terrifying or they're sexy. There's no in-between here. And yes, by that definition, Luffy is in fact sexy. Because, come on now, he's got the washboard abs. I mean, I call it as I sees it, I'm just saying. Yeah, what I'm trying to get across here is that most pirates that exist in the One Piece world don't exactly fit the description of how pirates looked in our world. With a few exceptions, like Blackbeard, for instance. Blackbeard always kind of goes around, kind of looks dirty, like he's been through a lot of crap, like he is an actual sailor. He's got a bunch of flintlocks on him and a bunch of bottles of booze in his freaking belt, like ready to just take a swig. So, you know, you have stuff like that, but for the most part, you don't see real genuine pirates. But another exception to that is, of course, Roger. What I love is in the Funimation dub, they even gave him, like, the most stereotypical, you know, like, I'm a pirate, you know, shiver me timbers kind of voice, which I think works for him. Now, Roger himself is actually based on two different pirates, if you can believe it. One pirate, Henry Avery, seems to be the basis for the fact that Roger was the king of the pirates, the most successful of the pirates in the One Piece story. Henry Avery is regarded as the arch-pirate, or the king of the pirates from our world. And another pirate, Olivier Levasseur, seems to be the basis for the whole One Piece treasure thing. How, on his execution platform, Roger shouts to the world, you know, I have this great treasure, it's all yours, you can have it, it's all hidden in that one place, you just have to find it. There was actually a similar historical account of a pirate, Olivier Levasseur, who was French, that actually sent a cryptogram into the audience upon his execution before he was hanged. And then this is apparently supposed to lead to a great treasure that has yet to be found to this day. So there's, yeah, two bases for pirates that we're just going to go into briefly in this video to kind of give you an idea where the legend stems from, that I'm sure Oda did quite a bit of research on pirates when writing the One Piece manga. Now, one more thing I need to get into before we start into talking about these pirates is that these were not good people. They were pirates, alright? I understand that pirates have been sort of romanticized over the years. You know, nowadays, you know, even like the fact that One Piece is the best-selling manga of all time. I mean, the main characters are pirates, but they don't behave in, like, a way that pirates did back in the day. Like, they didn't, like, Luffy's not going around and sacking ships and murdering people, alright? It's just not part of his deal. But the fact remains that these people we're going to be talking about are thieves and murderers and rapists, and they tortured people. At least Henry Avery did. So yeah, I'm not up here saying like these were the really great pirates of the world. No, no, no. These were horrible people, but they were successful at being horrible, and they earned their spot in history for their infamy. Henry Avery, in particular, was responsible for the single greatest act of piracy in the world, where he stole a tremendous amount of booty, so to speak, and for the most part basically was able to get away scot-free with it. So that's the reason why he goes down in history, but not because he was like a great guy or anything. It was because he was just really good at being a pirate, which was not a great thing, but still, okay. Right, so with that being said, let's get into the historical king of the pirates, Henry Avery. Now, Henry Avery was born in England, and, well, back in the day, the English were doing pretty much what they've done a lot throughout history, and that was fighting the French. You know, it wasn't really until I went back and through history and brushing up for this video that I really discovered, wow, the English fight the French a lot. I don't know what started that whole thing, but it happens quite a bit throughout history. In particular, during Avery's lifetime, there was something called the 9 Years' War, which involved England and Spain and a bunch of other places in France. It was a mess. But anyway, yeah, you had Henry Avery, who was part of the Royal Navy for a time. He was partaking in a few battles there, pretty good leader. In 1690, he was discharged from the Navy, and then he participated in some slave trades up and down the African coast. But his big break into piracy occurred in 1693. So what basically happened was he became the first mate of this new shipping expedition to Spain in 1693. And they was part of a ship called the Charles II, and they headed down to Spain to begin this shipping trade thing. But there was a lot of problems with this journey. It took them way longer to get to Spain than it should have. It took them several months. And by the time they finally arrived in the capital of Spain at the time, La Coruña, they were stuck in the port. There was some issues with the paperwork. They weren't allowed to, like, leave the area, and because of that, they were basically stuck in this city for several months, and they were starting to get restless, and eventually a band of pirates that included Henry Avery began to mutiny, and they took over the Charles II. They renamed it the Fancy, and they elected Henry Avery as their captain. He was someone that was very gifted in the art of persuasion. He had a silver tongue, and he already had prior experience being in the Royal Navy, and so, they elected him to be the captain of this new pirate crew, and, he promised them, we're gonna do this. We're gonna sail. They had the Fancy, or the Charles II, was a very seafaring ship. It had 46 cannons on it, so, whoa. And so, they just began their run as pirates, sailing up and down the Atlantic and Indian Oceans, and they had some successful raids as pirates, but the big one, the real big one that set him down in history as the arch pirate, the king of the pirates, done stuff that no other pirate has ever done beforehand, took place in 1695. And now it's important to mention at this point also that not only did Henry Avery manage to succeed where, transcend every other pirate at that point by getting this huge haul, he also set up to inspire a lot of other pirates that this was a lucrative venture, that you could be a pirate and you can attain these like tremendous amount of riches and actually manage to get away from it, because in 1695 plenty of pirates that would later become infamous were like in their teenage years or younger, haven't even been born yet. The infamous Blackbeard, Edward Teach or Edward Thatch. I just got that. Edward Thatch. Oh my god, Oda, you're a genius. But anyway, yeah. Blackbeard was only 15 years old in 1695 when Henry Avery had this giant haul and became this king of the pirates. So yeah, I mean, and then there was other pirates like Anne Bonny and Edward Lowe, who's the inspiration for the namesake of law. These pirates were not, some of them weren't even born yet, or born around the same time that Henry Avery was enacting his piracy, and it only lasted 2 years. Henry Avery was only a pirate for 2 years, but that's all I guess he needed, really. He was really good at it. Right, so in 1695, there was this fleet of ships. There were 25 ships in this fleet. It was an Indian fleet, and I apologize, I'm probably going to butcher names here, but it was an Indian fleet, and it was making an annual pilgrimage to Mecca, right? And so a lot of pirates knew about this, because, it happens like around the same time every year, so they knew where this fleet was going to be and where they were heading and everything like that, and there were all these vast riches on this ship, and they thought, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to raid these ships, and we're going to get this treasure. So it wasn't just Henry Avery, though. Henry Avery's crew on the Fancy teamed up with about about there was 6 other pirate crews that were part of this. And it was actually Avery that eventually was elected as the admiral that was going to command all 6 of these different pirate fleets. And it was something interesting because there were actually other pirates that were even more experienced on this, that were part of this fleet rather than Henry Avery, but he managed to succeed and become their admiral. So he ended up, like a few years ago, he was, in the Navy, and then he got discharged and he's doing this, and then he became a pirate rather short, not a long time ago, and all of a sudden he finds himself as this, the admiral of all these 6 different pirate ships, leading this massive raid on a fleet of 25 ships in this Indian fleet heading to Mecca. So they managed to succeed, basically. They captured one of the ships and got a pretty big haul from that, but they continued onward to this massive ship, the one that was like the main one, and this one was, this was like really capable of defending itself. The first ship that they took might have already been battle damaged, and like I said, the Fancy had like a shitload of cannons on it, so it was like fairly capable of taking down this one ship. But the main ship in this fleet, the one that had all the booty on it, had like 80 cannons, and it could boast like 400,000 like riflemen. Like, this thing was ready to go. So there was a battle, but at the end of the day, they managed to succeed, and the haul from that was estimated to be around 600,000 pounds, at the high estimate, which would equate to easily tens of millions of pounds today in our current currency, adjusting for inflation and all that stuff. And they managed to succeed. They took this away, and look, this is where I'm only going to gloss over it, because, this is not the point of this video to get too dark, but just to be historically accurate, they captured people, a lot of people died, they tortured people, and there were also women on these ships, and I don't think I need to explain to you what happened, but you could probably fill it in for yourself how this went down. Like I said, not exactly good people we're talking about here, but this is, how it went down. And also, there's been some changes over the years because, pirates, you want to romanticize it, you want to make it seem like, pirates, because there's like storybooks for children that are written about pirates. I mean, look at this thing. This is a freaking, I bought this at my dollar store. It's a pirate paddleball thing. Like, come on now. Like, it's making it seem like, oh yeah, pirates, those are, for children, right? It's whatever, it's fantasy. So there's been a little bit of like, yeah, they weren't really all that bad, but they were like first-hand accounts by the people that were there, that survived, and they got back, and it's like, yeah, these pirates were horrible what they did to us and our women. So I'm gonna go with that. Yeah, a lot of people died, but anyway, they managed to get this money, and they divvied it up. They agreed beforehand, how much money they would each get, and they basically they separated at this point, and it's something they could have been like, oh, we're on a roll, guys, let's keep on moving. But I guess they were content with how much money they got, at the time period. I mean, 600,000 pounds, like, that's ridiculous, a redonkulous amount of money at the time, and it led to Henry Avery getting the highest known bounty of anybody, and it led to this, like, the first big manhunt in the world. His bounty was 1,000 pounds, which in today's currency would be somewhere around 90,000 pounds or even higher, all on one guy. So, yeah, because he was English, and, it doesn't look very good on England, if this pirate's running around, he did these horrible things, and so that's why they had to bestow such a high bounty on him. And so, over the years, there were a few members of the crew that managed to get captured, but Henry Avery was never captured. And what happened to him, we don't know. We can only assume. There's a basic idea that he fled to the Caribbean briefly, but there's other accounts that he may have actually returned to England or Ireland at some point and just lived out the rest of his days under the alias of Benjamin Bridgman, which kind of reminds me of Ben Beckman, the alliteration with the B's. Maybe that's where Oda got the idea from Ben Beckman, Henry Avery's alias Benjamin Bridgman, so maybe. But we just don't know. There's been some accounts that perhaps he was just living a comfortable life. He had all of his money, and he was lived out his days as a wealthy man. Others reported that he actually was swindled out of his money, that he was, gypped, basically. He tried to, sell his riches, and the people, they're like, oh yeah, we'll take all these diamonds and everything, and we'll give you the money, and then he basically gets swindled, and he died a poor beggar. But the problem with that story is how would they know that? Because, imagine, like, this actually happened, and Henry Avery tried to sell all of his riches, and he got screwed over, and he was like living as a peasant. Like, how would they still know it's him? Like, oh yeah, you see that peasant begging for change outside that pub? Yeah, that was Henry Avery, and that's the king of the pirates right there. I'm like, oh, okay. doesn't that guy have a 1,000-pound bounty on his head? The highest in the world? Yeah, he does. Maybe we should go turn him in. You know, if he's just this poor beggar hanging around and people knew about him, then, like, you know, why didn't they turn him in? He was right there. It's like, just pick up the okay, homeless man, we'll give you something to eat. And like, hey, here you go. I want that reward now. Yeah, so there's a problem with that. And there's even, like, this was completely fabricated. This wasn't true. But there's even this story that he actually went to Madagascar and founded, he was the king of, like, a pirate society. Now, of course, this was in like the freaking 1690s, so obviously they didn't have an effective way of, you know, like, information. So, you know, someone just the murmurings in a pub, like, yeah, did you hear about that king of the pirates? Yeah, he's down in freaking Madagascar. He's the head of this pirate utopia down there. You know, like, it wasn't true, but it's a cool idea, like the romanticization that, yeah, you know, piracy is something that can actually be lucrative, and that might have inspired pirates like Bonnie and Lowe and Blackbeard himself to start their piracy deeds, like, later on. So, what do you know? That's the story. Personally, I like to think that Henry Avery, I mean, he was a pretty smart dude. He was a really good leader, so I like to think that, yeah, he either just laid low and, you know, sold his money, was smart about it, didn't, like, try to, you know, spend it all at once or anything like that. He was very smart with his money, and he spent the rest of his days living comfortably. That's probably the most likely way to go about it, so that's the case there. But what became of all of his treasure, we don't know. He might have hidden it somewhere else, as far as we're concerned, right? So that's the first basis for Roger, the true king of the pirates, okay? But there's one more to talk about, and that's Olivier Levasseur, and he's a French pirate, and the big thing about him was his great treasure, okay? So Olivier's thing, and keep in mind, Olivier was born in the year 1690, so he was only 5 years old when Henry Avery was doing his whole King of the Pirates thing, alright? So Olivier, his thing was that he went after this Portuguese galleon named Our Lady of the Cape, and this galleon had a bunch of riches on it, a lot of really valuable gold and gems and jewelry and all that stuff, one of which being the Cross of Goa, which maybe there's the origin of the Goa Kingdom. And this cross was huge. It was super heavy. It was gold, decked out with diamonds and rubies and sapphires and all that stuff. They managed to take that. Olivier took the cross actually for himself, along with a bunch of other gold and riches that they could sell for. And basically, at the time of his execution, he was executed on July 7th, 1730. That's when his execution was. He was going to be hanged, and upon his execution, he took out a necklace that he had around his neck. He took out a necklace and he tossed it into the audience, the people that are watching him being executed, and he shouted to the world. He shouted to them, you know, those who can understand that, you know, may have my treasure, something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing on that one. And inside of this necklace was actually a cryptogram, and we actually still have that cryptogram. Here you go. Here's the cryptogram of Olivier Levasseur's location of his pirate treasure, his booty. To this day, it has not been deciphered in its fullest. There's an alphabet involved here, and some scholars have stated that it might have something to do allegorically with the labors of Hercules. You know, that story there. There's also some deals with the Zodiac as well. So there's like something to go along with that. But we just don't know. And Olivier's treasure is valued at, it could, well, we don't know, but it could be as high as £1 billion. In today's currency. So that's also quite a bit of money there. And so, hey, if you want to become Monkey D. Luffy, if you want to have a one-piece adventure yourself, here you go. You could decipher this cryptogram. Basically, think of it as a poneglyph, I guess. You could decipher this poneglyph and then head out on a journey somewhere in the world and dig for buried treasure. So, yeah, there you go. Actually, fun fact, the only pirate, or one of the only pirates to actually do the whole buried treasure thing, like that we know of, was William Kidd, Captain Kidd, and he actually buried his treasure in somewhere on Long Island before heading into New York proper. So that's something. Not a lot of pirates were going around burying their treasure, you know. But yeah, so those are two really interesting stories. I can totally see that Oda took inspiration from both of these guys. It's kind of hard to think that he didn't, considering that you literally had a guy, Henry Avery, that was called the King of the Pirates, and then you have a guy, Olivier Levasseur, that literally did the thing that Roger did at the execution platform, like, go out and find my treasure, that's my last challenge to you, to kind of prove that, like, at the end of the day, like, I win. You know, I'm getting executed, but I still win. Yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys had a good, I guess technically not a talk like a pirate day, but a act like a ninja day, but we all know pirates are cooler. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking101 signing out. Ha ha!